Greetings, fellow commanders and historians. Today, we'll be continuing our new series of expanded lore videos. As a reminder, these videos are a rich blend of established lore and my own personal interpretation. For those seeking a direct and unembellished dive into the lore, I recommend my lore breakdown series. In this video, we'll be delving deep into the intricate tapestry of the Great Human Alliance's rise, its internal dynamics, and the shadowy sub-factions that have shaped its destiny in the Sirius Sector. Strap in as we journey through the annals of history and explore the nuances of the Great Human Alliance's legacy. But first, a massive shout out and thank you to all who participated in our recent community poll. The results were, to say the least, quite astonishing. The Great Human Alliance, often seen as the underdog in our polls, truly came into their own this time around. In their 5th appearance in our community polls, they surged past the heavyweights like the Blessed Sisters and the formidable Battle Brothers. Their resilience was truly on display as they went toe-to-toe with the alien hives. And while it was a fierce contest, the Great Human Alliance managed to turn their previous 0-4 record to an impressive 1-4. It seems the Hive Lords will need to up their game if they hope to reclaim victory from the determined humans in the future. What a turn of events that was. With the community's overwhelming support for the Great Human Alliance evident from our recent poll, it's clear that the tale of these scared humans doing amazing things resonated deeply with many of you. Their journey, marked by trials, tribulations, and triumphs, is a testament to humanity's enduring spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. Today, we'll be diving deeper into this saga, peeling back the layers of history to uncover the roots of the Great Human Alliance's formation and their early challenges. So without further ado, let's embark on this journey together, retracing the steps of those brave souls who dared to dream of a better future for all of humanity. Chapter 1. The Era of Refuge. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, amidst the swirling galaxies and the infinite void, there lies a tale of survival, hope, and resilience. This is the story of the Great Human Alliance, a beacon of humanity's indomitable spirit. Our journey begins with the escape from the Founder's control. A tyrannical force had long held humanity in his iron grip, but like all oppressors, his time too came to an end. In the last moments of the Founder's civil war, a brave group of humans made the perilous decision to flee their oppressor. Their destination was unknown. Their path was set for the fringes of known space. But while escaping from the Founder and his dogged battle brothers, a wormhole appeared. A mysterious and unpredictable passage through space was their only hope. With the Founder's forces hot on their tail, they took the leap of faith, hoping to find salvation on the other side. Emerging from the wormhole, the refugees found themselves scattered across the vastness of space. Disoriented and separated, they faced the daunting task of regrouping in an unfamiliar galaxy. But adversity breeds resilience. A core group of these refugees, bound by their shared ordeal, managed to regroup. Together they began the arduous task of settling new worlds, carving out a space for humanity in this alien expanse. These pioneers, driven by a shared vision of a better future, faced countless challenges. Each new world they encountered presented its own set of obstacles, but with every hardship they grew stronger, more united. Yet, the Sirius Sector, their new home, was not devoid of life. Many of these worlds were already claimed by the native factions, each with its own history, culture, and territorial claims. Clashes were inevitable. As the human settlers tried to establish their colonies, they often found themselves in conflict with those native factions. Tensions rose, skirmishes broke out, and the dream of a peaceful new beginning seemed to slip further away. But in these trying times, a beacon of hope emerged. The Blessed Sisters, led by the enigmatic and powerful God Queen, rose to the occasion. They became the primary defense of these fledgling colonies, standing as a bulwark against the threats of the Sirius Sector. With the Blessed Sisters at the forefront, the human colonies began to find their footing. Yet the challenges of the Sirius Sector were many, and it became clear that survival would require more than just military might. Voices began to rise, calling for unification, the need for a united front, A collective of human colonies working together became evident, but this idea was not met with unanimous approval. Many colonies, cherishing their newfound freedom and independence, were wary of once again being part of a larger entity. They chose to go it alone, valuing their autonomy over collective strength. Thus, the stage was set. The human settlers of the Sirius Sector, having escaped the clutches of the Founder, now faced a new set of challenges, with the looming threats of the native factions and the internal debates about unification. The future of humanity in this galaxy hung in the balance. But as history has shown, humanity's spirit is not easily quelled. The journey of the Great Human Alliance was just beginning, and the tales of their struggle, triumph, and sacrifices would echo throughout the ages. Speaking of tales that echo through the ages, let's delve into one such narrative that encapsulates the very essence of struggle, triumph, and sacrifice. In the failing light of the crimson sunset, the city of Wilhelm stood, surrounded by shadows of impending doom. The city's once gleaming structures were now scarred and battered, and the streets echoed with the mournful silence of its besieged inhabitants. The last of these free folk huddled in a great city hall, a symbol of Wilhelm's tenacious spirit. Before it stood a hastily erected barricade, the city's last line of defense. A poorly equipped militia of 20 common folk and laborers, who had never held weapons in their lives before, were entrusted with the city's hope. Private Lawrence stood a little to the left, with his eyes fixed on the horizon. He could see the flickering of demonic lights and the haunting chants of the lustful furies growing louder. He clutched his rifle, the grip slippery with sweat. Larn had been a baker in Wilhelm, but today he was a soldier. The weight of it bore heavily on him. "Hold the line," whispered Captain Birch, a retired officer who had volunteered to lead the makeshift squad. But his words, meant to encourage, only stoked the embers of fear. They watched as the first wave of the lust furies swarmed. Screams and gunshots filled the air. When a militia member ran out of ammunition, they reached down, picking up the weapon of a fallen comrade. The rhythm of survival never missing a beat. Larn's heart raced. With every squeeze of his trigger, a demon fell. But they were numerous, overwhelming, and in the sea of monstrous faces, a colossal shadow grew. A lust beast, a gargantuan horror, his very presence suffocating hope. All seemed lost. But then a mechanical roar broke through the cacophony. Engines from above, a spaceship pierced the darkened sky. Beams of white light fell, and from them descended the Blessed Sisters, the galaxy's fiercest defenders of humanity. Their squad leader, Sister Alera, brandished her sacred sword, and with a battle cry that shook the earth, decapitated the advancing lust beast. The tide turned. The Blessed Sisters, with their unmatched prowess, pushed back the demonic horde. "Fall back to the city hall," ordered Captain Birch. Larn and the militia retreated, running past the monumental efforts of the Blessed Sisters. As they reached the city hall, the transport ship lowered its ropes, pulling up the terrified citizens. The militia, exhausted and battered, were the last to ascend. From their rising vantage point, they watched as Sister Alera and her squad fought valiantly. The horde was relentless, but every Blessed Sister stood tall, a beacon against the night. But even as stars dimmed and as the transport ship rocketed to safety, the last of the Blessed Sisters were consumed. Yet their sacrifice was not in vain. The people of Wilhelm lived, bearing the memory of that fateful day and the heroes who held the line. As the human settlers grappled with internal debates and external threats, a shadow loomed on the horizon, one that would test the very fabric of their existence. From those wormholes that had granted the settlers their escape emerged a new and terrifying force, the Wormhole Demons. These malevolent entities, born from the chaotic energies of the wormhole, sought nothing less than the complete annihilation of all that stood in their path. The demons, unpredictable and relentless, launched a campaign of terror across the human-owned space. Their ambush tactics, combined with their otherworldly abilities, caught the human colonies off guard. World after world fell on their onslaught, with entire populations vanishing into the abyss. The human colonies, still in their infancy and dealing with their own internal and external challenges, were ill prepared for this new threat. Without a unified military force, each colony was left to fend for itself. relying on the hastily assembled militias and whatever defenses they could muster. The situation grew dire. Reports flooded in from all corners of refugee space. Colonies razed to the ground, families torn apart, entire worlds plunged into darkness. The very survival of humanity in this new galaxy was at stake. But in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit refused to be extinguished. Stories of resistance began to emerge. Brave men and women standing their ground against the demonic hordes, fighting not just for their own survival, but the future of all humanity. And at the forefront of this resistance stood the Blessed Sisters, led by the powerful God Queen. With unwavering faith and unmatched prowess in battle, they became the beacon of hope for the beleaguered colonies. The God Queen, recognizing the magnitude of the threat, called upon all colonies to unite in defense against the demonic invasion. While the idea of unification had been a topic of debate, the immediate danger posed by the Wormhole Demons made the need for a united front all the more urgent. Under the leadership of the God Queen, a grand coalition was formed. Militias from various colonies, volunteers, and the Blessed Sisters came together, pulling their resources and knowledge to mount a defense against the demonic onslaught. The battles that ensued were epic in scale and ferocity. The human defenders, driven by desperation and hope, clashed with the demonic forces in a series of brutal confrontations. Each battle was a testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit. But the turning point in the war came in the form of a singular, defining moment. The God Queen, in a display of unparalleled bravery, challenged the Avatar of Lust, a powerful demonic leader, to a duel. The duel was fierce, with both combatants pushing each other to their limits. The entire sector watched with bated breath as the fate of humanity hung in the balance. And then, in a climactic moment, the God Queen struck down the Avatar of Lust, dealing a significant blow to the demonic forces. The victory, however, came at a great cost. The God Queen, having expended her energies and sustained grievous wounds in the duel, succumbed to her injuries. Her sacrifice became a rallying cry for those human defenders, a symbol of hope and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. With the death of the Avatar of Lust, the momentum of the demonic invasion was halted. Sensing renewed resolve of the human defenders and the loss of their leaders, the demons began to retreat, leaving behind a trail of destruction and sorrow. The human colonies, having faced the greatest threat to their existence, emerged from the conflict scarred but unbroken. The sacrifices made, the lives lost, and the battles fought would forever be etched in the annals of history. The Wormhole Demon invasion served as a stark reminder of the dangers of the Sirius Sector. It underscored the need for unity, cooperation, and preparedness. The human colonies, having faced annihilation and survived, now looked to the future with a renewed sense of purpose and determination. Chapter 2. The Foundation of the Great Human Alliance. The ceiling of the Assembly Hall, vast and ornate, bore down heavily on the minds of the representatives from the various colonies. Voices of dissent, of anger, of grief echoed through the space, cacophonous and untamed. This hall had seen the vestiges of thousands of diplomatic endeavors, but today was different. Today, it would host the aftermath of the God Queen's sacrifice. In a quiet corner, away from the boisterous crowds, a nervous man from one of the smaller colonies went over his notes. It was the very colony where the God Queen had made her last stand, a piece of land that would now be forever etched in the annals of history. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes, they were alight with a spark of determination. "They're never going to go for this," he muttered to himself, glancing at the leaders from the larger, more affluent planets. They seemed confident, some might even say arrogant. As they discussed amongst themselves in hushed tones, he felt out of place, an underdog amidst the giants. But he held on to his belief in the vision he was about to share. A voice distorted by the room's acoustics crackled out, "Bernard, the colonial representative from the final stand of our beloved God Queen, please take the stage." He stood up, straightened his robes, took a deep breath, and walked towards the central podium. The hall fell silent. Thousands of eyes stared at him, expectant and judgmental. But he thought of the God Queen, of her sacrifice, and felt the weight of his responsibility. "Ladies and gentlemen of the assembly," he began, voice soft but clear, We gather today not merely in the shadow of our magnificent domes, but under the weighty shadow of the God Queen's demise. I had the unfortunate privilege of witnessing her last moments. It was not just a battle, it was a spectacle of love and devotion, a dance of divine tragedy between the God Queen and the Avatar of Lust. Silence clung to the room. Her death, he continued, voice strengthening, is on our hands. Anger now colored his words. On your hands. This assembly's unwillingness to see the danger that lurked in the Sirius Sector. Your blind ignorance left the Blessed Sisters at the forefront, shielding us with their frail hands. He could see faces in the crowd grow redder, eyes flashing with anger and defiance, yet he pressed on. Our military, divided by our arrogant pride, could not unite against the demons. The Blessed Sisters were left to fend for themselves, without support, without the resources they direly needed. With a heavy sigh, he concluded, and greed. Oh, the damnable greed. Resources that could have fortified our defenses, strengthened our sisters, were hoarded, kept away from those who needed them. These aren't just mistakes, they are cardinal sins. The price, the life of our God Queen. Silence again reigned, a thick, uncomfortable quiet. We must awaken from this nightmare, Bernard said more calmly now. The dangers of the Sirius Sector aren't myths to be dismissed. They are real, palpable threats. Our pride has blinded us to our vulnerabilities. The belief in our invincibility, in our individual superiority, is a path to destruction. He raised his hands, pointing towards the high dome, his voice now filled with passion. Let us demolish these walls of greed and pride. It is time we unite, not as disparate colonies, but as one, as a great human alliance. The hall was engulfed in cacophonous noise. Cheers, boos, shouts of agreement and disagreement filled the air. Bernard stood for a moment, absorbing the chaos. He knew he had said all he could. His part was done. With a small hopeful smile, he turned and walked away, his silhouette shrinking against the grandeur of the assembly hall, a small star that had shone brightly for one brief moment in time. The aftermath of the Wormhole Daemon invasion was a time of reflection and rebuilding. The human colonies, having faced the brink of annihilation, emerged stronger and more united. The Sirius Sector, once a realm of uncertainty, was now a testament to human resilience. But the lessons of the past were not lost on the settlers. The need for a united front, a collective that could face the challenges of the Sirius Sector, was more evident than ever. Voices advocating for unification, which had once been mere whispers, now echoed loudly across the colonies. The vision was clear, a united human alliance, standing shoulder to shoulder, ready to face any challenge. Yet the path to unity was not without its obstacles. Many colonies, still cherishing their newfound freedom and autonomy, were hesitant. The memories of the past oppressors, of being part of a larger entity that stifled their voices, were still fresh. But the events of the recent past served as a stark reminder. The God Queen's sacrifices, the heroics of the Blessed Sisters, and the united stand against the demons were proof that together the colonies could achieve the impossible. The proponents of unification used these events as a rallying point. They argued that while autonomy was valuable, the collective strength of a united front was the key to long-term survival in the Sirius Sector. As discussions progressed and consensus began to emerge, the colonies realized that while they could have their cherished individual identities, they needed to be part of a larger whole to thrive. And so, with a shared vision and a collective resolve, the foundation of the Great Human Alliance was laid. Not all colonies joined immediately, with some choosing to observe from the sidelines, but a significant number, driven by the lessons of the past and the promise of a brighter future, came together. The Great Human Alliance was more than just a political entity. It was a symbol of hope, a beacon of human unity and determination. It represented the dreams of a prosperous future where humanity could carve out its destiny in this hostile new galaxy. As the Great Human Alliance began to take shape, its leaders faced the daunting task of charting a course for the future. The challenges were many, but the promise of a united human front gave hope to millions. With the formation of the Great Human Alliance, a new era dawned for human settlers of the Sirius Sector. United in purpose and vision, the Great Human Alliance set its sights on ensuring the safety and prosperity of its member colonies. But the leaders of the Great Human Alliance were under no illusions. The challenges of the Sirius Sector were many, and the memories of their past threats, especially the Wormhole Daemon invasion, were still fresh. It became evident that the first order of business for the Great Human Alliance was to establish a unified military force, a force that could defend the member colonies, deter potential threats, and ensure the long-term survival of the Alliance. Thus, the Human Defense Force was born. Envisioned as the military arm of the Great Human Alliance, the Human Defense Force was tasked with the monumental responsibility of safeguarding the Alliance's interests. Member worlds of the Great Human Alliance stepped up, contributing soldiers, equipment, and resources to the Human Defense Force. From the vast agricultural worlds to the technologically advanced colonies, each brought its unique strength to the table. But the Human Defense Force was more than just a collection of soldiers and equipment. Under the guidance of the Great Human Alliance, it became a symbol of unity and discipline. Rigorous training programs were instituted, ensuring that the Human Defense Force was a military to be reckoned with. The Human Defense Force's strategies emphasized discipline, rapid deployment, and the use of heavy artillery. While they might not have the technological edge of some of the native factions, they made up for it with the use of sheer numbers, determination, and the will to protect their homes. As the Human Defense Force grew in strength and numbers, it became clear that its role was not just defensive. The Great Human Alliance, while primarily focused on the safety of its member colonies, also recognized the need for a proactive approach. The Human Defense Force began to conduct regular patrols, ensuring the security of trade routes and deterring potential threats. Their presence became a reassuring sight for the member colonies, and a reminder that the Great Human Alliance was committed to their safety and prosperity. Yet, even as the Human Defense Force solidified its position as the protector of the Great Human Alliance, challenges loomed on the horizon. The Sirius Sector was a complex tapestry of alliances, rivalries, and power dynamics, and the Great Human Alliance, with its still growing influence, was bound to attract the attention of others. As the Great Human Alliance solidified its presence in the Sirius Sector, the Human Defense Force became its protective shield. The leaders of the Alliance faced another pressing matter: the role of technology and gene modification in shaping the future of the Alliance. The Sirius Sector, with its myriad of advanced civilizations, presented a technological landscape that was both enticing and daunting. The potential benefits of integrating advanced technologies into the Great Human Alliance's infrastructure was undeniable. However, the scars of the past were still fresh. Memories of the Founder's oppressive regime and its military enforcers, the Battle Brothers, served as a grim reminder of the dangers of unchecked technological and genetic advancements. The Battle Brothers, genetically modified soldiers of the Founder, were a testament to the potential and perils of gene mods. Their enhanced abilities made them formidable, but their strict training and dedication to the Founder made them a tragic symbol of technological overreach. Faced with the ethical and practical implications of adopting advanced technologies and gene mods, the Great Human Alliance had to make a crucial decision. After much deliberation, the decision was clear. The Alliance chose to reject any attempt at genetic modification. The painful legacy of the Battle Brothers served as a stark reminder of the potential consequences. Furthermore, the Great Human Alliance acknowledged a practical reality. They lacked the capabilities to conduct advanced gene modifications. Instead of chasing a potentially dangerous path, the Alliance chose to focus on its strengths: unity, determination, and the collective spirit of its member colonies. While the Great Human Alliance might not have been at the technological forefront compared to some of the native factions, they had their other strengths: their emphasis on discipline, rapid deployment, and the combined might of their numbers gave them a unique edge in the challenges they faced. The Great Human Alliance's stance on technology and gene mods was not just a practical decision, but also a philosophical one. It was a statement of their values, their commitment to the sanctity of human life, and a rejection of the idea that progress should come at the cost of one's humanity. As the Great Human Alliance chartered a new course to a bright future, Its decisions and values would shape its relationships, alliances, and confrontations. The Alliance was not just a political entity, but a beacon of human values and principles. Chapter 3: Conflict and Diplomacy. The ground trembled beneath the weight of countless battles, resonating with the pulse of life and death. The stalemate between the Human Defense Force and the alien hive had reached a fever pitch, each side waiting for the other to falter. The unyielding storm of alien hive's artillery beasts had become the constant nightmare of the Human Defense Force. Their screeches echoed like death knells across the scarred terrain. It was amidst this onslaught that the gargantuan bioship, a monstrous marvel of living engineering, met its end, spiraling from the sky to crash amidst the crossfire, providing the desperate humans an unexpected respite and a strategic advantage. Squad leader Marcus Flint, a veteran with more scars than tales, assessed the situation with predatory eyes. The sprawling husk of the bioship was an opportunity, a brief one. From its bows, the chitter surged forth, threatening to snuff out the glimmer of hope it offered. Flint, having guided his squad through the direst of straits before, recognized this moment's weight. The fallen bioship wasn't just wreckage, it was the path forward, and the frenzied cry of the hive's assault grunts confirmed their desperate bid to reclaim it. "We push now," Flint shouted, his voice steely. "Use the ship's spine as cover and shoot down every chitter you see." The charge was manic. Soldiers leaping from their trenches, sprinting madly towards the fallen Leviathan. Their boots pounding the scorched earth, laser rifles pulsed as aliens poured out of it in droves, only to be met with hot, accurate fire from the advancing Human Defense Force. Flint watched as two of his men were taken out, one snatched by a massive appendage, and the other cut down by a projectile launched by a chitter. His heart ached, but he pushed on. Rallying his team, they fought, inch by bloody inch, until they reached the relative safety of the bioship's shadow. But beyond the ship was the real challenge. A heavily fortified alien hive emplacement, teeming with hive warriors, each towering at almost 2 meters tall. Their bodies, shimmering with chitinous armor, held inbuilt bioweapons that fired the dreaded shredder rounds. Amidst them, levitating slightly above the ground, was a creature of nightmares, the Synapse Floater, or as Flint's team had colloquially named it, the Mind Blaster. This beast, a psychic dynamo, could lay waste to a whole platoon without even twitching. Flint's keen eyes locked onto the Mind Blaster. It began to glow with an eerie luminescence, sensing the humans even behind cover. They were exposed. Laria, Flint barked at the squad's weapon specialist. "Take that thing down." With steely determination, Specialist Laria prepped her grenade launcher, murmured a brief prayer, and dove from the protective shadow of the Leviathan. The launcher hissed, and the grenade sailed safely, embedding itself into the squishy flesh of the Mind Blaster before detonating. The resulting explosion was a vivid array of gore and viscera, drenching the nearby hive warriors. But victory came at a cost. Before Lyria could scuttle back to cover, a shredder round caught her square in the chest, flinging her body backwards. Flint's heart screamed, but his training shouted louder. "Now push!" Using the disarray caused by the Mind Blaster's explosive demise, Flint and his squad surged over the encampment's walls, engaging the hive warriors in brutal close combat. Each Human Defense Force soldier fought with the ferocity of 10, knowing that this chance might not come again. When the dust settled, the encampment was theirs. Flint raised his comm, reporting their position to HQ. Encampment secured, waiting further orders. Dropping the comm, Flint took a moment. Smeared in a mix of grime, sweat, and alien ichor, he surveyed the landscape. The charge, though victorious, had taken a toll. As the remaining hive forces regrouped, a thunderous roar erupted in the distance. Reinforcements, both human and alien, were on the horizon, converging on their position. Flint tightened his grip on his rifle. "Form up," he bellowed to his team. "This may have been one battle, but the war's not over yet. Let's show these beasts what happens when you corner humanity." With the formation of the Great Human Alliance and the establishment of the Human Defense Force, the human settlers had carved out a place for themselves in the Sirius Sector. But the galaxy, with its intricate webs of alliances, rivalries, and territorial claims, was far from peaceful. The Great Human Alliance, while a symbol of unity and hope for the human colonies, was also a new player in the complex geopolitical landscape. The native factions of the Sirius Sector, each with its own history and ambitions, viewed the Great Human Alliance with a mix of curiosity, apprehension, and in some cases, outright hostility. Skirmishes over territorial claims became frequent. Worlds that the human settlers had come to call home were often contested by native factions, leading to tense standoffs and at times open conflict. The Human Defense Force, ever vigilant, found itself on the front lines of confrontation. Their mandate was clear: defend the Great Human Alliance's territories, protect its citizens, and ensure the Alliance's survival in a challenging galaxy. But the Great Human Alliance's leaders recognized that military might alone was not enough to secure their place in the Sirius Sector. Diplomacy, negotiations, and forging alliances were just as crucial in navigating the complex web of interstellar politics. The Great Human Alliance, while defending its claims, also reached out to native factions. Diplomatic envoys were sent, trade agreements were negotiated, and the efforts were made to understand and respect the rich tapestry of cultures in the Sirius Sector. Yet the path of diplomacy was fraught with challenges. Misunderstandings, long-term rivalries between factions, and the Great Human Alliance's own past with the founder meant that trust was hard to come by. As the Great Human Alliance navigated its way through the intricate dance of diplomacy and conflict, it began to carve out a reputation for itself, not just as a military force to be reckoned with, but also as a diplomatic entity willing to listen, learn, and forge lasting bonds. As the Great Human Alliance built its foundation, its external relationships, and defended its territories, a new era of growth and prosperity dawned. But with the growth came its own set of challenges, both external and internal. The Great Human Alliance's territories expanded, either through diplomatic negotiations, economic partnerships, or, when necessary, military intervention. New worlds were claimed, and with them came new resources, opportunities, and challenges. But as the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. The rapid expansion brought to fore issues of resource allocations, settlements, and the delicate balance of power within the Great Human Alliance. Smaller worlds, while benefiting from the protection and resources of the Great Human Alliance, began to voice concerns about their autonomy. They feared that their unique identity and needs were being overshadowed by the larger, more influential members of the Alliance. The Alliance's leadership, while committed to the collective good, faced the daunting task of ensuring equitable growth. They had to navigate the fine line between central governance and granting autonomy to individual colonies. Economic disparities between colonies, differing cultural practices, and competing interests added layers of complexity to the Great Human Alliance's governance. Diplomacy was not just an external tool, but became crucial in managing internal dynamics. The Great Human Alliance, in its wisdom, recognized the importance of unified growth. Efforts were made to ensure that every member colony, irrespective of its size or influence, had a voice in the Alliance's decision-making process. Economic incentives were launched to uplift the less prosperous colonies. Cultural exchange programs were instituted to foster understanding, and a decentralized governance model was explored to grant more autonomy to the individual worlds. Yet the path was not always smooth. Disputes over resources, territorial claims, and the governance model tested the Great Human Alliance's unity. But every challenge also presented an opportunity for the Alliance to introspect, adapt, and evolve. As the Great Human Alliance navigated its internal dynamics, it also kept an eye on the larger picture. The Sirius Sector, with its ever-shifting alliances and power dynamics, required the Great Human Alliance to be vigilant, adaptable, and ready to face any challenge. As the Great Human Alliance navigated its internal challenge, the external landscape of the Sirius Sector remained ever volatile. New threats emerged, and within the Great Human Alliance, sub-factions began to rise, each with its own vision, strengths, and challenges. The external threats to the Great Human Alliance were multifaceted. While the Alliance had forged diplomatic ties with many of native factions, others viewed the Great Human Alliance's growth with suspicion, in some cases outright hostility. Amidst this backdrop, the Titan Lords emerged as a formidable sub-faction within the Great Human Alliance. These were the contenders of vast battle machines, guardians of key territories, and symbol of human ingenuity and might. Their presence on the battlefield was a game changer, often turning the tide in the favor of the Great Human Alliance. The Titan Lords, while loyal to the Great Human Alliance, also had their own interests and agendas. Balancing their influence with the broader goals of the Alliance was a delicate task. In contrast, the Human Inquisition rose as a watchdog within the Great Human Alliance, originally tasked with maintaining connections between disparate colonies, supporting networks, and making sure communication ran safely. They eventually turned into the Secretive Task Force, ensuring loyalty, rooting out corruption, and safeguarding the Alliance's core values. The Inquisition wielded significant influence. Their methods, often secretive and uncompromising, were a source of both reassurance and fear. The Inquisition's role became especially crucial with the emergence of the infected colonies. A mysterious affliction began to spread across some of the Great Human Alliance's worlds, turning their inhabitants into mindless, aggressive beings. The origin of this affliction was unknown, but its implications were clear. It posed a grave threat to the Alliance's unity and security. The Human Inquisition, along with the Human Defense Force, took a lead in combating this threat. Quarantines were enforced, research teams were dispatched to find a cure, and when necessary, military intervention was carried out to contain the spread. As the Great Human Alliance grappled with these challenges, the importance of unity and adaptability became even more evident. The rise of sub-factions like the Titan Lords and the Human Inquisition, and the threat of the infected colonies underscored the complexity of the Alliance's journey in the Sirius Sector. Through it all, the Great Human Alliance remained a beacon of hope, resilience, and human spirit. Its journey, marked by challenges and triumphs, was a testament to humanity's ability to adapt, evolve, and thrive in the vast expanse of this new galaxy. And with that, our exploration ends here for today. But fear not, lore enthusiasts. There's plenty more to discover in the one-page rules grimdark future. I hope that you all enjoyed learning about the Great Human Alliance. I really struggled with the script for this one. I ended up rewriting it about a couple dozen times. So if you have any feedback, I want to hear it. I'll be waiting for it in the comment section below. And make sure to vote in our latest community poll if you want to help select the topic of our next video. The link is in the pinned comment below as well. Once there, you'll be able to choose from the Machine Cults, The Flesh is Weak, but That's One Fine Toaster, The Human Inquisition, Your Secrets Are Our Business, Dark Elf Raiders, We Are the Pirates, Who Lost Everything, and the Alien Hives, No One Can Hear You Scream If I Eat Your Face. If you like this video today, please like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more lore breakdowns and expanded lore videos. And remember that the universe never runs out of stories. There's always one page more.